All right, it's an emergency pod. It's an emergency pod. Matt Maidment has been talking about emergency pods for a long time, and finally he gets one. And Hawley, can you remind me what's the date today?
The date is the 29th of August.
No, it's the 25th of December for Matt Maidment because the Green Bay Packers have just, well, according to, I'm sure he's going to say this and all the analysts, they've just locked up the Super Bowl because they have traded in Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers get Micah Parsons, the superstar linebacker, and the Cowboys in return get a 2026 first, a 2027 first, and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. And then there's the contract implications, which we'll go into, but let's just throw to the main man, the happiest man on earth, Matthew Maidment.
Look, fellas, it's been a great morning. My excitement levels peaked. I actually started to get a little bit excited last night.
Yeah.
Yes, because there were some whisperings throughout the week. There were some rumors that started when we recorded Monday night, and then it was starting to ramp up Tuesday and Wednesday. There were the Packers had an offer on the table.
Yeah.
To Dallas for Micah Parsons. And just before we went to bed last night, so Thursday night Australian time, um, the Vegas odds started shortening and there was movement in the market. And that is where a few of our Packers contacts over in the States, Packer Nation, Alec, who covers for CBS, uh, was all over it. That there's something was happening, and Vegas were aware of it, and the odds started shortening at a rate of knots. And then we wake up this morning to see the news, and I saw a couple of DMs coming through, and then I started seeing some more notifications, and then our Instagram just blew up, and I had to make sure I quickly jumped on with a floating head reel. Once I saw, I didn't even wait to see what the compensation was, to be quite honest, because I knew Jerry would mess it up, and we'll talk about that later.
Hawley, would you say it was the most smug floating head reel he's done so far?
Oh, I logged onto Instagram and all I saw was this very happy smile with the Green Bay Packers hat
He
just
hit
sitting
the
there,
Rizzler. He
not
hit the
saying a
Rizzler.
word, nothing. Then I read, I was, oh gosh, Dos is going to be the happy. What time did you wake up this morning, Dos? What time did it all occur? When did it happen?
6:15,
Quarter past 6.
Adelaide time,
Did
South
you
Australian time.
were you alone or were you with the family or?
I was because Jess was out at gym, so she was training, and the kids were asleep. So I
Right, so
quickly, quickly, quickly grabbed
that
my
leads
hat.
me
He
that leads
quickly
me
grabbed.
straight to my next question. Did you pleasure yourself this morning when you found out that Parsons had been traded to Green Bay? You're on your own, kids are asleep, Jess wasn't home.
First thing that Quag asked me as well, and he's sending me all sorts of crude imagery. And I sat there and I'm reading, flicking through because the compensation still hadn't come through yet. So I was sort of waiting for that to get refreshed. And then I heard two first, and I thought, yeah, that'd be about right. And then Kenny Clark as well, um, which, for me is a little, like Kenny Clark's one of my favorite defensive players. For the Packers, he's been with the Packers since 2016, 9 seasons, well respected. He's always available. He always shows up, plays good football. But yeah, he's coming into his 10th season now. So yeah, and he's played a lot of snaps at defensive tackle position. But yeah, just the contract didn't surprise me. Big contract,
Huge.
highest ever for a non quarterback. If you want to 180, 180 4 year, 180 million, 120 guaranteed, unless those numbers have changed, Kurt.
I think it's
Um,
188 million across the 4 years. But for the
yeah,
average annual value, it's 47 million per year, which smashes the
yeah,
record that was set for a non-quarterback by TJ Watt earlier this preseason, which was
yeah.
41. So it's 6 million more a year. You are certainly mortgaging the future for Micah Parsons, as much as he is a superstar, and that's what you have to pay for it. It's a very significant change to both teams' salary cap situations.
Yeah, absolutely. The Packers had the space for it. The Packers have got the youngest roster in the league. and you bring in Micah Parsons at age 26, entering his prime, which is really exciting for a Green Bay pass rush that has struggled the last few seasons. The defense as a whole was pretty good last season, first year under Jeff Hafley as defensive coordinator. But now with Micah Parsons, I mean, I cannot wait for the Lions to come to Lambeau next week, in week one, and then in 4 weeks' time,
Yeah.
it's Packers and Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, which
Yep.
is Sunday night football, which is just going to go off. So I can't wait for that. But did you boys happen to catch Jerry Jones's press conference a couple of hours ago?
No.
I did. I did actually watch a little bit of it. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Got a message
Um,
from Donna's about it. Go on, give us a couple of snippets, and then I'll jump to the defense of Jones and the Cowboys.
well, you referred a little while ago, Kurt, a couple of episodes ago, when he continually calls him Michael Parsons. Well, that happened about 6 times today in the press conference, to the point where
Really?
Stephen Jones had to correct him and jump in.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
that seemed a little deliberate and disrespectful, I think. And he stuttered and stammered his way through the press conference, claiming that they get 5 players out of this trade. I'm still yet to see how that works, unless you're going to
Three.
make yeah, right. And that's the initial response. I don't see where you get 5. And then
Okay.
there's reference to the Herschel Walker trade, the one that he made back in the late 80s.
Herschel Walker. We weren't
Yeah,
born then. Come
yeah, I
on,
know.
Jerry.
That's how we built a Super Bowl dynasty, and it was.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and watch that on the Gambler, very good. The Americas, I've enjoyed that documentary, I must admit. But then the commentary around, well, Dallas can't stop the run. We couldn't stop the run. When with Micah Parsons, we couldn't stop the run. One of the best defensive players in the league, not even in his prime, and you're claiming that you couldn't stop the run because Micah Parsons was on the field, is one of the worst excuses I have ever heard. It's the fact that the Cowboys just dragged their feet too long. They pissed the player off, the agent off, not to mention all their fans as well, right? Yes, they got away with it with signing Dak last year, but if there's one way to piss a fan base off, this is a good way to do it.
Yeah, Hawley, let's get your very quick reaction on the trade, and then I'll go through some Cowboys stuff. But what was your initial thought?
It's huge. I was a little bit surprised and disappointed because I did tip Dallas during the week to make my Super Bowl and
That's
spoil
right.
everyone's hopes and dreams. And we said, oh, well, it depends if they sign Parsons. And I said, yeah, they'll sign him. They'll sign him. And 2 days later, they've let him go. But I've always been big on depth, and I'm sure you'll probably talk about this very shortly, Kurt. But I've always been big on depth. I think a roster needs depth to succeed. And you look at, all right, they lost maybe he's 26.
Mm.
They've got probably 2 years of absolute prime Parsons to play around with, and then 29, 30, he's still going to be an animal. So they've got 4 years of just scary defensive play coming at them now. But in Dallas' side of it, they've got 4 first-round draft picks over the next 2 years, if that's what we're expecting, a 26 and 27 first to be the deal. So they've got 4 first-round picks to play around with, which is a lot of depth. They can build a really good defense around that. They can bring in some pieces. They can go to the draft. I think the problem might be that Green Bay's first is probably a mid to late first now, rather than maybe just a mid first.
Yep.
But still, you got 4 firsts, you got both the seconds. That's 6 picks in the first 2 rounds over the next 2 years. So that side of it, they are set up well. They just need to get this offense rolling and hope that they can build some pieces on defense.
Yeah, that's sort of a few of the points that I was going to make. I know that it's Jerry and the Cowboys' fault that it got to this point with Parsons, but it was almost irreversible, I think, the damage that had been done between them. And whilst we did think that they would get him re-signed, it was probably at a point where the only real option for this to go smoothly was to trade him out. And if it's gotten to that point where it was so detrimental that he was saying, I no longer want to be here, as opposed to I'm requesting a trade, which are two very different things, then all right, maybe they had to trade him. So did they get enough? On the surface, you think probably not, considering, like you said, mid to late firsts. But it's not a full rebuild. This roster still has some talent. They weren't achieving playoff success while Parsons was there. So do you go, well, maybe we do rethink this strategy, take a punt, get what we can for him now? There's the strong case to make that if they put him on the trade block in March, they would have gotten a lot more out of this with some competition in the market. Dos, curious on your thoughts there. But they do save the salary cap space with something that would have blown up their salary cap after already paying CD and Dak. They do have those 4 first-round picks now. They did, and I know this is only a small thing, but they drafted a defensive end for some pass rush help. Donovan Ezeraku, the 16.5 sack man from Boston College. In 12 games, he was the defensive end of the year in college last year, so they are hoping for big things out of him. So it's not all doom and gloom. They haven't ruined their roster, I don't think, by Parsons not being there. Obviously, he's a superstar, but Dos, is there maybe some logic to it despite Jerry getting there in his own weird, roundabout, confused kind of style?
Not really.
Okay.
To be quite no, and to be quite honest, you'll get another couple of seasons out of Kenny Clark up front. As I mentioned, he's coming into his 10th season. He's played a lot of snaps.
I'm not really worried about the Clark thing. I think he's just he's the filler to ensure that this defensive line isn't embarrassing for the next 2 years. He's not their next Super Bowl team.
Now remember the DeMarcus Lawrence go to Seattle from that defensive front. So look, this Cowboys defense, it wasn't great last year. Parsons missed a couple of games. He missed a lot, but they got a lot of issues. They got a lot of issues in the secondary. The safety position is a worry. The front is not great either. The best thing about this Cowboys team is probably the offensive line, and they need a healthy Dak Prescott this year. If Dak gets injured again and misses a significant part of the season, you're looking at like a 4-win team. Like that's where it sits. And I'm being quite serious about it because they got no run game at all. The run game struggled last year, and Rico Dowdle was no longer there, and he was their leading rusher. So now you're relying on what you can get out of Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue. Javonte Williams has come across, I think, as well. So, I mean, you're not looking at anything there that's going to give you any sort of run game that you could confidently say right now that you would be in the top half of the NFL. So it's, again, dependent upon the offense passing game to be really efficient, to stay healthy, for this team to be competitive next season.
But if we are saying that the roster does have all of those holes, and you're right, they do, isn't there some logic to saying, well, we needed to move a big piece in order to free up some capital to pay players to fill those holes over the next 12, 24 months, plus get some draft capital in? I mean, I think that from a strategy perspective does, at least to me, make some sense. Hawley, I think what's missing was, if what Jerry said was right, that Dos quoted, that they get 5 players from it, i.e. 2 firsts and 2 seconds plus Kenny Clark, then maybe I would have gone, okay, you can start to build a new roster from four more picks over the next 2 years. But just those 2 first-round picks over the next 2 years, with the hit rate of first-round draft picks, I don't know, doesn't seem enough.
I don't mind trading him out. It's the fact that they waited this long to trade him out and the market had dwindled, and now they were left with, I don't know what else was out there, but maybe Green Bay were the only ones that even put a decent offer in. So, like you said, if they tried to trade him out a few months ago, they might have been looking down the barrel of 2 firsts and 2 seconds to a team where the first might actually have been mid firsts or nicer picks. But at the end of the day, they're going to have 4 first-round picks, 2 of theirs and 2 of Green Bay's. They'll have 2 of their own second-round picks. Their offense, I think their offense is okay. Like Dos said, if Dak's healthy, then the passing game should be pretty good with the receivers they have now. And that's the same for every team in the NFL. If their starting quarterback's healthy, then the offense runs pretty well. It's just a matter of now if they can turn these 4 first-round draft picks into some decent defensive players. And if I was Dallas, I am targeting some established players. I don't think I want to go to the draft with all 4 picks. I want to find some guys that have some proven history, some success, and bring them into that team.
All right, Dos, the final word will be with you, and I want it in the form of a prediction now for the Packers win-loss. What did you have them at before the Micah Parsons arrival, and what do you have them at now that he's there?
I mean, yeah. So I predicted that they would go over their win loss. Their line was 9.5 wins. So let's start with that. I predicted that I think that they'll win the division, and I thought this was an 11-win team
Yep.
pre Micah Parsons. Now, this is I think you're looking at the opportunity there for 13 wins this season.
Holy?
And certainly the division
I was about to
is
say,
more than in play. But
well, is
to
it
me,
Detroit or Green Bay now, Dos? Are they leveling up with Detroit?
I think they are. I think the uncertainty around Detroit with two new coordinators is why I have Detroit coming back to the field a little bit. Detroit's still a very, very good roster on both sides of the ball, no question.
Detroit get a pretty good player back this year in the name of Aiden Hutchinson, albeit off of a pretty average injury. So that's a guy they didn't have last year and still achieved what they achieved last year. So they're going to be very dangerous if he's fully fit. But I have Green Bay very, very close to Detroit now. If Parsons can stay fit and produce 15, 16, 17 sacks that Green Bay didn't have last year, then it's going to be a very excited DOS.
Absolutely. Go, Dos.
Yeah, I mean the key will be because obviously Micah Parsons hasn't been at camp, so then you've got this piece like basically waiting for 1 week. Cowboys Eagles play this time next week, so you've waited this long, and then Jerry makes the decision to trade his best player 1 week before the season starts. It upsets anything that Dallas were planning. Matt Eberflus, good luck in your new role as defensive coordinator there. And it creates an interesting dynamic how he fits straight into the Green Bay defensive scheme for Jeff Hafley without any preseason, without any camp with Green Bay, right? You're 10 days away from week 1 versus the Lions. So
Probably not a starter, Hawley. Probably doesn't start.
limited snap count.
Very good. No, you're right, Dos. There is a lot to consider. It's crazy. There is 1 week until the NFL season starts. It's all happening. That couldn't have been bigger news on the eve of the season. Emergency pod, Dos. We finally got one. Finally got one over the line for you. And of course, it was good news for the Packers. So, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your 4-month early Christmas. We'll be back with everybody on Tuesday to preview literally every single game of week 1. Can you believe that? We'll see you all then. Thank you, Dos. Thank you, Hawley.
See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, fellas. Go, Pack, go.